Insurance Regulatory Authority CEO, Alhaj Kadunabi Ibrahim. The presence of Mr. Paul Kavmad, the chairman of ICOGU. As you know, today we are speaking matters, oil and gas. There is a team from the Ministry of Energy, and there is also a team from the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, and our distinguished CEOs in the industry. We welcome all of you, distinguished guests, to this occasion.
We also want to commend them, UAP, because they've led the line very well, and at no cost. We shall discuss that privately when we go back home, but they have led the line well at no cost, and ensured that the first policy is out, engagement with the IOCs is also done, and also ensure that the premium is collected. So you can imagine collecting that. Administratively, the structure of ICOGU is such that we have the members as a block, the 20 of us, all subscribe to it. And of course, the subscription is also well regulated by the regulator in that you cannot oversubscribe, and of course also expose your balance sheet. So there is a formula that is required for us to buy the shares within ICOGU. Again, we then enlist the services of UIA as a secretariat, which is our umbrella body, to be the administrative secretariat for running around, and also Uganda Re, the custodian of our funds and our shareholding in the ICOGU. As we speak in East Africa, ICOGU is now a case study in that Tanzania, we're miles ahead of them in terms of oil and gas discovery, and of course setting up. We have been looked at as a case study by Tanzania. Lately, TRS, who are our consultants, have also been in Mozambique to pitch, and also looking at our ICOGU setup as a case study that they're going to replicate in Mozambique. So I think that is another huge achievement for us. The ICOGU gives you the opportunity to participate in the peripheral businesses, the businesses that's around the oil and gas. Any of us who has been in an oil and gas presentation or training or workshop, there's the core activity and then the services around. So that big cycle, which I think Mr. Sekagawa would even probably have a slide on it this morning, is what we call the peripheral services. And there we compete fairly and aggressively to get that service. But when it comes to the core business, the core function, which is the drilling, that is when ICOGU comes collectively to participate. We must commend PAU. For the first time, we got a door open for us as ICOGU to speak to them in the absence of the IRA, because initially we always sought government and intervention of the IRA to hold our hand to go and speak to PAU. But lately we have had a chance to be able to engage with PAU on a private, on a face-on-face, which I think is also commendable. Lessons learned, apart from learning how to speak French and Chinese, and also coordinating the wee hours of the morning because of the different time zones between France and China on the Zoom calls and team calls, we have certainly gained a lot of technical competence. I think as we speak, Nancy and James are leading the line well on that, and they've replicated the technical competence that they've earned with the rest of our underwriters. So I am pretty confident that even with the reinsurance trainings that we get every so often on oil and gas, they are not rhetoric, but we still earn for more training, and we are certainly getting there. So that has been a very good step for us. The next steps, and where I want to give Pau the confidence, is our participation in local content and the requirement to fulfill that. The problem with that, as I will go back to the lessons learned, is probably we were fixed by the IOCs, and we didn't earn as much as we expected. And we had a bit of a disjointed sort of approach. Good enough, none of the retail brokers is around, so I'm safe, and unless the press will take it out in the news. But I can say that the placing brokers leaned more towards the IOCs, and we did not achieve what we had expected in terms of the traditional conventional commission that we would have earned. So invariably that then compromises on our local content budget. But we are doing everything humanly possible within our own means as individual members, and of course our secretariat, the UIA, to see that we conform and comply with the local content drive. So I want to assure PAU and the IOCs that yes, once the requirement was for us to also fulfill the local content requirement, we are intently looking at it, and I think we've lined up several activities on that. And that is the next steps. After writing the policy and earning a bit of money on those policies, we've set aside funds to make sure that we do fulfill our obligation as respectable businessmen and ladies to fulfill our local content. So ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, that is what Ikogu is for you. And parting short for me is we take pride in what we've put together as respectable businessmen and ladies in the general insurance. I say cooperation is at its most. Really, there's very fair competition. You only take what you can achieve and what you have within the Ikogu setup, and the distribution is also equitably done. So I thank you for listening to me, and hopefully I've sounded intelligent enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kavuma, for those elaborate words on Ikogu. Let's pick up the opportunities and tap into those technical competencies he's talking about. Right now, allow me to invite Mr. Ali Sekatawa, the Director Legal at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, to give us a presentation on the status of the oil and gas industry. Mr. Ali Sekatawa, you're welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The ED of IRA and the industry members here. As indicated, my name is Ali Sekatawa. I'm a Director Legal and Corporate Affairs. So I'm honored to be here before you to make this presentation, but also I'm excited because what Mr. Kavuma has been saying, the journey, I've been part of that journey. First as a negotiator for what we call the insurance package in Uganda for local content, and secondly as one of maybe the initial advisors to this consortium. So I'm very happy when I see the results for this, because the initial approach and the initial discussions and so on, and the advice we gave, we are happy that it was taken and eventually regularized by IRA, and then we have a product. Why? Because this industry has been here, as you well know, from the exploration stage. But as we approach this stage, it became very clear that the players were saying that our teams or our companies are not ready to insure the industry. And we are very concerned because we see the value, the amounts that we are, supposed to be insured. And the initial discussions we had presentations from individual insurance companies and their risk appetite and so on. And it was also visibly clear to us that the individual companies as they are would not be ready, would not be in position to insure this industry. We had looked at some of these models in Ghana and Nigeria, where industries had come together. And I think initially, I don't see the gentleman, I was looking for his face here, from TRS, who came. And I think he did not have a very good, maybe an initial reception, because I think the concept was not well understood. And we moved together with UIA and advising them. And I'm very happy because the day we saw that the consortium is has been approved to do the upstream and the downstream as a consortium. I think most of us we are all very happy. We are relieved to say now we are together. So I'm very happy to be here. The second was the industry at first came to us and they wanted to be gazetted as among the 16 local content. And I think I had initial discussions with some of you, and my view was that that might be a longer process because we can actually achieve what we want through this other route of saying you can do a consortium and we do the work, and because the law itself says if there's capacity in the country, priority should be given. So we have that general clause, but we also we have the specific clause where it has 16 items that are gazetted. So the initial approach of saying gazette, because of the difficulties of the contracts that we have and the difficulty of your industry, because again you have to be careful if you force an IOC to insure in a manner that they are not very comfortable, who takes the ultimate liability? Should there be a problem, they will come and say, you as a regulator, you forced us to do this. So for me personally, before I even open here, I'm very happy with what Kavuma is doing and the team and the fact that we have come together. I was asked to come and present the status of the industry and the opportunities for insurance business. I see many faces, I know, and I assume some of these things are known to you. So if I am repeating something that you've already listened to, please bear with us because I think there are some that may not. We find this very important because it's good that all of us are on the same wavelength. Even before you talk about the business of insurance, our aim is that you first understand the business of oil and gas. What is this animal? So that then you can put it into your specialty. So the first part is this, and this is very important, whether you're a lawyer, you're a businessman, you're a farmer, for you to understand this. Because this industry now is starting in this country. It's good to know when we talk about oil and gas, what do we mean? So we have three key areas in the value chain, which is the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. I will start with the downstream, the other side. It's what for all of us as Ugandans we've been doing. The petrol stations we all know and the sale of the refined crude, and I am sure you've been insuring that business. But the upstream has also been here from the 90s because we've been doing explorations. The first exploration agreement was in 1991, and the companies have been around over time. In the upstream, we use the PSA, and that PSA also has a specific insurance clause. And incidentally, that old insurance clause for the first agreements, they required international insurance as a primary insurance at that time. And you will appreciate, in 1990s, it was actually the other way around, negotiated by Ugandans with the view that it would be better because it would protect the insurance. And later, I think we are further guided. There's a provision that was put in your law that required that if assets are here, they must be insured here. So one of the issues here is to balance that old insurance clause that we have with the law that was put in place so that we can move without any conflict. Because again, some of these contracts are stabilized. So that's the upstream. And upstream is exploration, development, production, and commissioning. So for the insurance industry, we've been doing exploration The stage we are on now is this one, the development. Because now we are doing the facilities, the central processing facilities, the pipelines, and so on, for purposes of starting production. Decommissioning is the last, when you have finished everything and you want to. And again, this is very important because the requirement is that they put back the land as it were and restore it. And part of the insurance policy they require also must cover this decommissioning at a certain clause. Although we create a decommissioning fund, we require them at a certain stage when we start production. There is a fund which is going to be deposited annually and kept in an escrow for purposes of, if the time comes for decommissioning, what we should use. But again, in terms of insurance, there is a requirement along this. So we are now here mostly. Although we have some exploration licenses now ongoing and 2 which have been given, and again these are required to take out insurance. So the major works now you hear about after FID fall here, because this is where all the development of the facilities are. After first oil in 2025, we then go to this, the production. Again, the insurance regime for this is different, and therefore we expect that you should now, as you eat this money, you be preparing for this. So I was very keen when Government was saying that they are now creating a special fund for capacity building, so that we would be happy that what we have missed out here, because what we missed out here before in exploration, I think the consortium has helped us recover something here. So I think then the issue is the area, the challenges we've got in learning French and all that. We prepare that when the production starts, because this is 4 years, this one. This is maybe 20 to 35 years, according to our production profile. However, we've seen that no country has ever started producing and it has ever stopped. We don't expect to be the first one. So, as we do here, we then prepare for this stage. The other segment is the midstream, which is commercialization. This is where we have ECOP, because it's a commercialization tool to take us to the East African coast, and the refinery company, which again has a consortium, because as you know, the refinery is slightly behind Kingfisher, Tilenga, and ECOP, because we are now doing negotiations, trying to get funding and so on, but it is definitely going to come on board. Again, if you say opportunities, CEO and the team, the most immediate one, because these ones are there now, ECOP is already on stream. It is also to organize and see how better to make sure that if we got 40% or 30 or whatever in these other 3 projects, here we can do 80, because the refinery is also here in Hoima. So it's an asset in Uganda. The challenges we have seen are going to be repeated. My experience is that they all come with the same. I've seen the arguments we've been having with the Ugandan Oil. I'm sorry, that's what I've been in negotiating for the last 4 years. And I'm very sure they will come when you agree the refinery, whatever. So again, preparation for this, so that when that time comes, we are in a better position. Gas processing, the same. As you know, we are going to do an LPG plant. Part of the excess gas that is coming from the production is going to be used for gas. So again, this is coming, and it's more or less tied onto this, because the designs for these development projects, the FDPs for here, because gas comes with the oil. So they are being fast-tracked so that gas processing starts. Again, if you say opportunities, Chair, again, this is one which is coming on board. I think those are the areas I thought I would clarify broadly in terms of where we are, in terms of strategic thinking. Why? Because for exploration, we have 2 licenses that were given recently to UNOC and another one company called DTR. Of course, they require your services. Maybe they have approached some of you. Then we have the other ones which have been ongoing, and of course they require those services. Now, development is here, production is coming, commissioning is coming, refining is coming, gas processing is coming. Transportation, which are the pipelines, is live, the contracts you have, and the upstream, the contracts you have. I think that's a broader perspective of your interest. In terms of institutional framework, this is again, we find it very important. If it is a policy issue, investment promotion or licensing is the ministry, the regulation and compliance is PAU, and the commercial aspects is UNOC. This is very important because we are with UIA. Now me and UIA, we mostly sit here, both of us. And by law, we have a provision that requires us, IRA, that requires us to work together to ensure that our work is not in conflict. And I think your consortium and the success of it is testimony that we've tried to draw the line. Because even when we were negotiating the insurance clause, part of the challenge was the industry doesn't want double regulation. They don't want to get something from PAU, then they go to UIA and they are asked the same. They want a single area to know, IRA, to know that when I require this license, I have received it, then it is authentic this side or the other, especially like national content and so on compliance. So here we fall here. For UNOC now, it's taking forward Uganda's commercial interests. When you're dealing with it, start dealing with it the way you deal with UNOC, or with the CNOC. Because even us now, we are moving to arm's length. It's a regulated entity. Why? Because the moment we share, as you know, we are dealing with production sharing, and the moment we share our crude as a country and the IOCs at the point of sharing, UNOC takes over the government share for sale, and it is supposed to sell it just like any other company. 2, when we do the licensing, like now, UNOC has been given a license for a block called Kasolupani. They are going to do exploration, just like Total does. And for us now, we then put them the other side, and we regulate them the way we regulate Total. So this is very important for IRA when you're seeking for insurance services or compliance from UNOC. It is not government. It's a company, and by law it was created as a company under the Companies Act, just as government is a shareholder. Now you, from a business perspective, again for the policies, I think you look for them along the same manner that you look for the policies from Total and Singapore going forward. Because again, many people confuse UNOC to be this side. We are trying to, soon we shall even be throwing them out of this one. Let them go and be proper companies, and they face their compliance. The status, I had hinted on some of this, I will not take more time, but historically, exploration started in the 90s. Right now, we have the live licenses we have now are the ones on Ngassa Shallow and Ngassa Deep, which are by a company called Orlando. These are exciting to the scientists because unlike licenses which are on acreage normally, because they give maybe, let me say, Kampala to any person, these ones, they are like floor 1 and floor 2. That's why they have Ngasa 1 and Ngasa shallow and Ngasa deep, because I think they saw wells, some on the shallow side and some under. So it's one license, but on the same area. But on 2 licenses, but the production licenses are different. And then we have this one of Kanyataba and Ama, Uganda. Now, and then DGR, which was given a license recently on Turako and UNOC. DGR is the same as this AMA. AMA was a subsidiary of DGR, and it has been doing work in Kanyataba, and then it requested for another license. So this license has been extended. They are going to start drilling, but they have also been given a new license by the mother company, which for us we consider an endorsement. Why? Because in exploration, you spend money with a view that if you don't receive, we say bye to you, restore. If you find that there is something under, then we go into the next phase where you commit money. So DGR has committed more money here. They are going to bring rigs now to start drilling because they have seen potential. That's what it means. And then they have also requested for this license, and it has been given to them. And then of course, as I said, also has a license in this Kasumba. This is exploration, this is business. As Mr. Kavuma said, there is the core business, there is the surrounding insurance business around the exploration. Then for the development, which I talked about, I think maybe some of you have been to the field. I encourage those that haven't to go there and see. We take people regularly if you apply in time so that you actually see what is happening. It is very good because that way, when you're negotiating with the guy in the Lloyd's Bank, in the Lloyd's Insurance in UK, at least you know what you're talking about. He should not know about your project more than you know, because for them they fly in and come and go. Then he's negotiating with you who is here, but you're rotating around Serena on air and taking it. So I encourage all of you, the basic minimum, you should have been to the field and at least see and know what is happening. So this is what is happening in Tilenga. Right now, as I speak, 2 rigs in Tilenga have been set up and built and commissioned, and I think drilling works is supposed to start anytime soon in Tilenga for the 2 rigs. And the other works for the central processing facilities and so on are all going on well, with a few areas where we have some delays. They are land related, especially because some of the things are flow lines. So you find that this is a line, you have secured land, and then somewhere here there's a person who is still contesting, and therefore you can't move. So those are the few that we are trying to work on, but generally Tilenga is on course. For Kingfisher, again, it is actually ahead, more or less ahead of schedule, because the rig, as you remember, this is HE, in January, they started spudding, and actually they have started drilling. And the process of being in here was more of confirming, like scientific studies, that there is oil under. So this spudding and drilling, there is tension. It's, I think, like if you have a pregnant maybe woman, and all the scans showed that you have twins and so on. Now this is when you are in labor, because as the machine goes down, you actually prove what you've been seeing in the report. So they are doing this, and so far I think everyone is excited that whatever they have been, we've been announcing and so on, is what is actually underground. Some of this is 7 kilometers down, 2 kilometers down some of these wells. So the rigs are here. The ones for Kingfisher, they have started. The one for Tilenga, the 2 are already, and then the 3rd is being brought in. The production profiles are there, and what I was saying, the LPG will also be part of the project, although this now is going through the regulatory approvals because it has a different, slightly different approval regime for it. The ECOP is, as you know, from here to the coast. Okay. This is from here, this is Hoima, because for Tilenga and Kingfisher, Tilenga is in Bulisa, Kingfisher is in Buhuka. So the 2 fields will be constructed that side, and then there will be flow lines, a flow line, a pipeline basically, from Kingfisher to Hoima, and then from Bulisa to Hoima. So at Hoima, they all meet here, which we call the sharing point. At that point, it is just crude. It has been cleaned, but it is crude. So at this point in Hoima is what we call the sharing point. Now that point, Total, Sinok, and Uganda, we share our crude at that point. For Uganda, we give it to UNOC, our part. And then UNOC now has to sell it or transport it. So here is where this ECOP starts. From Hoima, it comes up to the coast in Tanga, or this refinery, part of it, the refinery will be here, it just moves to the refinery. So as you know, we negotiated a first right of call for the refinery. So whatever production is going to be made and shared here, the first 60,000, the first 60,000 goes to the refinery, and then the rest will go into the ECOP. So the ECOP is a pipeline. As you can see, it's 1,445. It is in advanced stages. In terms of opportunities, I think this one for the industry, we've secured it for the industry through the consortium, for the insurance, in terms of insurance. Even these 3, these 2, we have. So the next then we have is the refinery. This one, we had an agreement, it expired on 30th June with the consortium aggregate. They had milestones to fulfill, and they have fulfilled many, like the feed and so on. But by 30th, one of the major ones, they were supposed to do FID, which is to confirm financing, which had not been done. As you've seen the statement from the minister, we are now back on the market to look for financials for the project. But again, most of these items have been done, and where we stand right now is we are going to go back to the market in terms of looking for financing. I will not go through land acquisition. These are general information on linkages, on how we are doing. We've designed the project in such a way that we avoid what is called the Dutch disease, where when you discover a natural resource, people forget the other things and concentrate on the natural resource and the exploitation. And in our view, the oil and gas is not like the solution to everything. So we are now doing projects which we call linkages to make sure that the project can be able to support transport, health, agriculture, housing, tourism, and civil works. And if you fall in any of these, we can have a more detailed discussion. The investments up to first oil, I've been told I have maybe 15 minutes, so I will try to move. As we stand now, in terms of employment, we have, I think as of yesterday, around 10,600 people that have been employed directly since February 2022. 10,600. So it is moving well in terms of that, and the major issue again on employment is national content. We prioritize Ugandans, and we expect that UIA in any of these in terms of employment and contract, because it is an extension. So even you, if you get this contract, when you are employing or you are contracting, make sure that you look for, so that we aim at value retention in the country. For goods and services, I think this is where I was saying the insurance people were saying they are not in this group of 16 gazetted. And our view is that we could take another approach, but still arrive at the same conclusion. I think this is also important where we are right now in terms of the players. We have some of the biggest players, some of them are on the Fortune 500 companies in the field when you go there. If you go, forget, of course, there's Total, there's Sinop, but these companies are very big. These are the licensed companies, okay? But some of the contractors we have, these are some of the biggest companies in the world. And therefore, in terms of preparation to either insure or deal with them, we think that it is even an opportunity for us to even benchmark from them, because you can learn, because like McDermott has been doing this work all over the world for the last maybe 30 or 40 years. And it is here. Sinopec, the same. Valurec, Schumberger, these are some of the big companies in the world, and therefore just the fact that we are dealing with them, even as regulators, we need to up our game in terms of service delivery. These are some of the Ugandans giving services, and I think they are of interest to you because they are on the national supplier database, but I mean there are some that are giving, and they are required to insure, also to get insurance services. Opportunities, I think this one, Mr. Kavuma did justice. This one, again, you are aware, this is for the upstream. All these packages I am talking about are within your knowledge. I do not need to repeat them. But these are because of the concerted effort of UIA and the team and so on. And I think we should all have maybe a good time where we can.
But you are going to penalize.
I'm very sorry. I have been in a workshop with UIA. I'm very sorry. I will apologize by UIA. I will now say insurance regulator. That saves me. And then, as indicated, the Tier 1 and Tier 2 contractors, all of them, and there are so many, so many. Probably, if possible, we should be able to share them with our fellow regulators so that they also make sure that they are. But there's the bigger package, the core business, but these ones, as indicated, it is on competition, but there are so many, because all of them are required to have insurance. In terms of policies, I think you are the experts in this, but we require construction or risk, third-party liability, sabotage and terrorism, operators' extra expenses, OEE, property damage and operators' extra, comprehensive general liability, construction of production and processing, operational risks, property and so on. And then of course there's one for the environment. You are the experts in this. I don't know. In conclusion, the sector is continuing to grow with the investments of 15 billion, which was confirmed by FID of February 2022. That FID covered Kingfisher, Tilenga, and ECOC. It did not cover the refinery. The refinery is slightly behind. And therefore, we expect to work with the industry to make sure that we should maximize value in the country and retain value in the country. And that obligation is for each one of us at the different layers. We have a well-defined institutional and regulatory framework. I think we work very well with our colleagues at the Insurance Regulatory Authority. And if we have any problem, I think you should be able to approach us to see what assistance we can make, as long as we all meet the strategic objectives of the country, that as much value as possible from this project is retained. Basically to say, let's work together and to say we are happy with what is happening. And probably last, which I didn't put here, is our project is facing a lot of intense pressure. There are people who I was in France last week, and there are people who are clearly sitting the way we are sitting here every day. They are very, 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 very well funded, and their job every day, every evening, every night is to look for strategies on how they can fail this project. So for me, I think we need to make a clarion call. It is an obligation for all of us. Let's not sit up on the tree picking mangoes when someone is cutting the roots. They are there, and you have seen them. They are called Stop Eco. Very well funded. They are filed. I think I was in France now. They have filed the third suit in France. They have filed in East Africa. They have filed here. But that's not the issue. Those are matters in court. But the intensity of what they are doing, the lies, where they are going, you've seen them. Some of them are picketing on some of the offices. I think some of the insurance companies have their partners. They spend days on their offices, rushing in their boardrooms, doing what, and so on. And therefore, I think it is an obligation for all of us to know that this is a national asset. For all countries, they have what they call a minimum, what we call a strategic issue. When you go to Europe now, UK, before the Ukraine war, they were all shouting about climate change, but no one can stand in UK now and say that exploration of their gas, because that has been elevated to a national security issue, because you need gas after the Russia switched on. So each country has its bare minimum and said, no, this one please, we can't talk. Now they come in different colors, they will say human rights, land, and so those we can talk about. But the major question is what he is saying is leave this oil underground, keep importing from us. And they are very well funded. One of the most targeted industries, there are two. It is financing and insurance. Finance, why? Because these three projects have given here yes, Tilenga, if we say 15 billion, this money for Tilenga, we have it under the PSD regime, because the argument we have is that I give you the contract, you explore, you develop, then I monitor the costs, then we share. So it's your obligation to get the money. So this money is there. When they say FID, this one is there. Then we have this Kingfisher, this one is also there, because the FID was taken. So now for ECOP, you hear a lot of noise, because ECOP is being done under what you call project finance. Project finance, there is equity and loan. So the equity we have, because government is 15%, Tanzania 15%, total, the equity is there. The other project finance, which is maybe 60%, is the one now where they keep targeting the banks. And of course, those banks require insurance companies because they are sending money to Africa. You know how they call Africa. We are going to send money to Africa, then they send you a list of 1,000 things. So they are targeting here. So they have done Stop Eco. It's an association of like 26, 28 international companies, well funded. But all they are saying in short is leave the oil underground. Therefore, we require the support from all of you not to leave that battle to anyone, because you are now part of the whole agenda. Thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge my colleague, Mr. Mugume, from National Content. We work with him. He's one of our resources on national content, whom we work to make this presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right now, without wasting any more time, allow me to invite Mrs. Francesca Kapoza, the Director Legal at the Insurance Regulatory Authority, to give an overview of the oil and gas business regulations.
This is to give you an overview so that we are all aware of what is in these regulations and the expectations of IRA. At the end of the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A where you'll ask the questions that you have about the regulations, but also feel free to ask any questions about the oil and gas industry, since we have Ali and the team here, and of course the Ministry of Energy. So I'll jump this because these core values have since changed. Alhaj is not here, but I'm sure he would have talked about it. We have a new strategic plan that has new core values that will be launched very soon. So these oil and gas regulations, I'm sure you have a copy. It's a very small booklet, which we shall be amending over and not over and over, but as new opportunities come in, as the business environment changes, we'll be coming up with new regulations and guidelines. So these particular ones came into operation on 11th November 2022, and they apply to insurers, reinsurers, and HMOs engaging in the oil and gas business. Ali has given us the industry and what it looks like, and I'll go into that later on. So the purpose of these regulations, we just have six of those core purposes. One is to establish standards of conduct of insurance business in the oil and gas sector. As you have seen, we have the Insurance Act came into operation in 2017. We have over 20 regulations that IRA has issued out to the industry to regulate various aspects pursuant to the Insurance Act. This one is one of those that came out to establish standards, proper standards, so that we are able then to maintain the business relationships. You're able to maintain the business relationships that you have with the IOCs, and as well as really maintain the stability of the business that you have. The other one was to enable you insurers enhance the financial and technical capacity to participate in the underwriting of oil and gas risks. As you have seen, for those that have, for Ikogo in particular, IRA goes into a deep due diligence on the kind of business you're going to write, but also on your setup, and also on the particular insurance companies that are participating. We are reviewing your financials, etc., to make sure that you're actually able to carry this risk on your books. So that is one of the things that we intended for these regulations to do. The other one is, of course, local retention, which he has spoken about. Again, the issue of retaining local content as well as writing the business here. The other one, and lastly, is to encourage insurers to develop fair, open, equitable arrangements for the conduct of oil and gas business. So those are the few roles of these regulations and why they came into operation. Now, the business that we deal with, oil and gas business, is defined under Regulation 5, and that is the definition there. It's the business of undertaking liability as an insurer or insurer under an insurance contract for upstream and midstream oil and gas activities. Ali has explained a lot about what upstream is, midstream, and downstream is. We were very specific to say oil and gas insurance business, in our case, pertains to upstream and midstream. Downstream is, of course, open to all the other players, but these particular ones have been gazetted under the insurance regulations, these regulations. So upstream in particular, again, he's talked about it. It relates to identification, extraction, or production of oil and gas. I won't go too much into that. And midstream are the activities related to transportation or storage of oil and gas. Again, he's gone very deeply into that, so I won't go further into that. Those are the risks that are covered. Again, Ali talked about them, and particularly operators' extra expenses, including drilling, producing oil wells, and pollution risks. Then the others include the construction risks, political violence, terrorism, sabotage, which he talked about, and of course the operational risks for oil and gas, and the operating risks and business interruption risks. I'm sure Paul talked about that, the kind of risks that ICOGO is underwriting, but those are the ones that are provided for in the regulations. Now, the mode of operation for insurance business is also provided for in the regulations, and insurance business is supposed to be conducted under a pooling arrangement. Now, the pooling arrangement, these are co-insurance pools where we have more than one insurer coming together to underwrite an agreed type of risk. So that is the mode of operation for insurance business. However, there will also be players that do not want to go under the pooling arrangement, and again, those have been provided for. However, for someone to go outside the pooling arrangement, they must be approved by IRA. And that is very deliberate for us to be sure that as a let me call it loaner in brackets, you're able to actually bear those risks on your books. So that is the mode of operation of the business. This is just to define what a pooling arrangement is, which is also defined under Regulation 6 of the regulations. It's made up of 2 or more licensed insurers who together insure types of risks. You will share premiums, expenses, losses, and profits in pre-agreed proportions, as is already done by ICOGO, and Paul spoke to that. Again, this is the regulation I was talking about, that someone is, an insurance player can go outside the pool, but you must be able to get approval of IRA. And that approval will not be unduly withheld. You just have to make sure you fulfill the kinds of requirements that we require in terms of capital adequacy, your financial standing, and many others, corporate governance, and many others. Okay, so this is not the first pooling arrangement that we have in Uganda. We have many others, as I'm sure you already know. We have the Agriculture Insurance Consortium, which is again one that is focused on agricultural insurance, and it's an arrangement that is hosted at UIA. We have the Marine Insurance Pool, and of course the Oil and Gas Pool, which is ICOGO. So in terms of underwriting, oil and gas business, this is what Ali spoke about on the underwriting of all local risks. All local risks must be underwritten by an insurance business in Uganda. And of course, that is duly licensed by IRA. This is in the main act. And then a licensed insurer may underwrite oil and gas business risks under a pooling arrangement, but like we've said, it might be outside, but you must get approval of IRA. So just go beyond that. Now, these are the considerations we put up, also the criteria that we consider at IRA in approving a pool. Already we have ICOGO, but I'm informed we are open to other pools. But this is what we're going to consider when we're looking at a pooling arrangement. Some of the key things we are looking at is local capacity, and he has spoken very candidly about that. We shall also be supporting the country's strategy in terms of local capacity, and we shall look for that. Local content, employment and training of Ugandans is very critical for us. Transfer of technology in the kind of pooling arrangement you have, succession of expatriates in case you have those in your pool. Membership of the pooling arrangement is very critical because you must have a pool that has insurance companies that are able to underwrite oil and gas risks, the particular oil and gas risks. Administration and management of the pooling arrangement, as you've heard from Paul this morning, UAP is I would imagine, is the lead administrator, And so whichever administrator you come with as a pool has to be an institution that's very well standing and is going to do that work very well. Of course, we'll look at your premium and policy requirements, your underwriting and claims process, dispute resolution, and lastly, safeguards for policyholders. As you know, that is a key mandate of IRA in terms of safeguarding policyholders, and that is why one of the reasons why the Complaints Bureau is there. So whatever arrangements you bring to us for approval must be able to have those safeguards for policyholders, the IOCs and all the others that are involved. Now, in terms of the decision to approve a pool, we are very generous at IRA. We'll only give you 45 days, but we usually work less than that when you come to us. So within 45 days, you'll be able to get your approval decision. The 45 days are used for us to do the due diligence that's required to ensure that your pool can actually underwrite those risks. Then in terms of revocation of the pool, now there's the approval. We will approve you, will allow you to go and do your work, and as well as, of course, fulfill the continuing obligations that you have as a pool. But if anything happens in between there, we will come very strongly on as a regulator, because we must be able to protect policyholders, but also ensure the stability of the industry. So in terms of revocation, your pool may be revoked, and Paul, this is for you, and the rest that are in that pool. If the pool is not in public interest, we shall revoke the approval. And if you're not protecting policyholders' interests, that is very critical for us. The other one is if your business is not being conducted in accordance with sound insurance principles and practices. That is a no-go for us. You have the Insurance Act and the requirements, as well as the guidelines and regulations there. So you must be able to ensure that your business is being conducted in accordance with acceptable insurance practices and policies and principles. Before we revoke, we are very generous once again, but that's not really being generous, it's just being fair as IRA and equitable. We will give you the notices to remedy whichever breach has happened, but if you fail to remedy that breach, then we will come strongly against you to ask to give you a notice to show cause why the pool's approval should not be revoked. So that is something that we are going to do, but again, we are very willing to listen to you when you have those issues and breaches that have prevented you from adhering. The other one is any pool member, by the way, should we revoke, should we suspend, any pool member is free to apply to the authority for us to review our decision. We give fair hearings, we'll be able to hear you and hear the decisions why you're breaching the insurance principles and practices. And then, again, as a very responsible regulator, the IAT Insurance Appeals Tribunal is there to listen to you in case there's a decision from IRA that you feel is unfair to you. The IAT is there, it's very independent, and they are ready to listen to your disputes against decisions of IRA. But this is not to say that you move directly to them. We already have IRA to actually work on dispute resolution for you before you go to the appeals tribunal. Now, these are the conditions for removal from a pooling arrangement. Once again, for the insurers yourselves, I've been talking about the pool. Suspending variation of the approval of the pool. However, even the individual insurers can be removed from a pool. So that means that each of us in the different pools have to be careful to ensure that we're adhering to insurance practices, best practices. Now, some of the things are really the bare minimum that we are requiring of you when we come to supervise, and that are provided in the different regulations, capital adequacy regulations, corporate governance regulations, etc. Those are the things that are going to prevent, to make us remove you from the pool, because we believe you're no longer, I was going to use a word, but yes, you're no longer able to actually participate in that pool. So those are some of the things we're going to look at, that you have not complied with the relevant minimum prescribed paid-up capital or security deposits. And I know the team from supervision is here. some players or most players are actually not complying with this, so we are calling upon you to comply so that you're able then to participate very comfortably in those pools. So that's a critical one. If you haven't complied with capital adequacy requirements, you may be removed from the pool, so please watch out for those reports that you get from us, especially in terms of complying with capital adequacy requirements. If you have not commenced insurance business, this one might not apply to the ones here because you've already commenced. And then if you have made a material false statement to the authority knowing it to be false. I think we all know the principle of utmost good faith and its importance in insurance. So you must also be able to give us the correct information. And that will be a reason for us to remove you from the pool if we discover that any statements you gave us upon due diligence were actually false. The other one is a judgment arising out of any insurance liability has not been satisfied by you and is pending for more than 90 days. So for those that have huge litigation portfolios, please look at those, because this is one of the reasons that might make you be removed from that pool. And of course, you've ceased to qualify as an insurer under the Act for various reasons. I'm sure you're all aware of the licensing requirements for an insurer and also for the continuing obligations of an insurer. So if you cease to qualify as an insurer under the Act, we are going to remove you from the pool. And of course, continuously engaging in illegal activities. Now, I don't expect that any insurance company or reinsurer is participating in illegal activities like anti-money laundering, etc. I hope none of us is participating in those, but if we find out that that is happening, then you may be removed from the pool. And then lastly, you have refused to adhere to the decision of the authority to settle a claim. Now, these are usually decisions that come out of the Complaints Bureau. We have been calling on insurance companies to settle these claims, or if you're not going to settle, appeal to the IAT, Insurance Appeals Tribunal, within 30 days. If you do not and yet refuse to settle claims or remain compliant in line with the Act, we shall not come for you, but we will come very strongly against you to be removed from that pool. So this is a call for all of us to adhere. Now, in the regulations, we also have continuing obligations for each pool member, but also for the pools. Those are some of them. Should there be any change of information within the pool or with one of the participating insurers or insurers, please make sure you give us that information as IRA within 7 working days of that change. Of course, we are talking about material changes. Here, we're not talking about a movement of a staff from A to Z. We're talking about material changes. So we must be able to have that information within 7 working days because it helps us with the supervision, it helps us with the regulation and ensuring that the pool is still very well standing in terms of the capability to underwrite the risks. Continued good standing with the authority, that is a must for all pool members, but also for anyone that wants to participate in underwriting insurance and oil and gas risks. And then the annual returns concerning the business carried out by the party to the pooling arrangement. Those are also critical for us. I think some of the supervision reports are showing some of you players are not actually filing these annual returns. So let us make sure we file because these are continuing obligations in the regulations. For the insurance intermediaries, the brokers and the agents, these regulations apply, but also most specifically the regulations that will apply to you are the intermediaries regulations of 2020. So if you're going to provide services in the oil and gas sector as an intermediary, you must be able to adhere to the intermediaries regulations of 2020, which are available on our website as well. So I call upon the intermediaries here to educate yourselves about those regulations and the requirements therein. Lastly, and Ethel, I hope I've kept time. Lastly, we have cross-references in those regulations. And it's very critical that you look at those laws as well to educate yourself about the requirements, the obligations, and so you don't find yourself in PAU's dispute resolution room. Like he mentioned, Ali mentioned, the Petroleum EDP Act is very critical because there are also obligations under there that you may be required to adhere to as service providers in the industry. So please do access them. They are available on their website. Access them and read them and educate yourself about the obligations there. The insurance capital adequacy and prudential regulations, I've mentioned those and the importance of you remaining in good standing in accordance with those regulations, because that might be one of the reasons why you're removed from the pool. And the whole reason is because we don't want a weak link within the pool. We want a strong pool that's able to sustain the risks that have been underwritten. And of course, the reinsurance regulations for the reinsurers in the house, those are very critical for you. So those are the cross-references we are looking at, but there are many other laws, of course, that regulate the oil and gas industry, because they are not playing in a vacuum, but in a universe of many other regulatory requirements. So please do adhere as is required. Like I said, this is a very short regulation. Please get a copy of it off our website and acclimatize yourself with it so that we don't see any issues. That is it on the regulations. Thank you, Paul, for clapping. I hope. Then we call back Echo to take us in the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Francesca, for that very good overview of the insurance oil and gas regulations. Like she said, let's interest ourselves in the regulations. They are the ones that will be guiding us in the oil and gas sector. So right now, allow me invite Mrs. Cynthia Ayero Msubuga to handle the Q&A.
Ladies and gentlemen of protocol observed, Mr. Sekatawa, thank you so much for our invitation. So for the Q&A, I know one thing I've learned from being in the RA is when you see an industry that is heavily regulated, you know there's a lot of money somewhere. So we've had all these presentations, and I do believe we have several questions. I have a question, but I think I will ask it last because it's even not. It was related to the statistics from the database, the skills database. I noticed there are only 1,000 or so women vis-a-vis 6,000 men or something. What is the secret, and what are the ladies missing? And maybe you tell us what's going on there. So for the questions, ladies and gentlemen, let's ask and ask and ask, because this is a wonderful opportunity for us to be here.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, Mr. Ali Sekatawa. You really call to us to participate actively, more so to fight the resistance that we're fighting. We find is good, and I can assure you, as members, we shall take it on. Mine is an ask. Do we have the latest environmental impact assessment report? So that if we can be armed with that, I think it also helps us as members to, continue fighting the cause with our own respective companies. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sekatawa, how many questions? You okay? Okay, so I have the next question. How would you advise the insurance sector to position themselves, especially looking at these ESG issues and how they're also affecting us, especially in getting capacity? How best can we also position ourselves given this kind of resistance? So we'll take one more question so we can address at least 3 questions. Any other? Okay, if there's none, Mr. Sekatawa.
Thank you. Either we are very clear or IRA is very tough to ask you. In terms of statistics, women versus men, I think you're right, and that's why we've started reporting along that, including age, because we are now trying to highlight that as part of inclusiveness. You will note that in the last conference we had here, there was they launched what is called Women in Energy, which is now currently being grandmothered by our Honorable Minister. So I think there are measures being done to make sure that there is that sensitivity and the number of women increases. But also, do you people want everything? You are Vice President, Prime Minister, Minister of Energy, what? That is aside. But there are measures, and you're welcome, because that association is already there to look at what strategic things can be done to make sure that so we are in the nascent stages. It's a good observation, also in terms of age, to make sure that as many people, young people especially, are given priority. Because right now, we looked at national content on employment, the fastest being Ugandans. And I can tell you, because we've been to many countries where you find that actually people welding, driving, especially Filipinos, and so on, because people did not prepare. So far what we've seen, because for the last 8 or so years, there has been massive efforts on training, all these jobs that were identified as necessary. When you go there, you actually see it. Because out of these over 10,000 people, I think the percentage now we have is at 94, 95 Ugandans. The second level now we then have is what we call local. Because where the project is, I need people for you to get a social license for have. So the requirement now we have is a 3-tier, which is unskilled, 100% where you're operating. If you are at Serena, all the unskilled people should come from that area, and we've done local committees where the LOC is the one who identifies you and says, this is my resident. Then semi-skilled in the district, the whole district. As long as it's semi-skilled, you're required to go and advertise on all the district things, and therefore, again, the local leaders identify their residents. Then, for skilled, we go national first. So you're required to advertise and show that they were Ugandans. If they were not, we have the Oil and Gas Talent Register, which everyone who is qualified, including yourself, you must be registered there. Why? Because any company that comes for a work permit, they first have to demonstrate that they advertise, then they give a recruitment report, and you see that there was no one qualified who was not in. Then we go to the Oil and Gas Talent Register and say, but we see these 10 cities. Can you go and first interview them? It is after that that we then recommend the work permit. So at employment level, we've done that. Now we've not started sex, age. I think it's, so that's why the statistics are like that. And that's why we've started that association to see how strategically now you can start moving to those areas, and any ideas are welcome. There's already an association. The latest impact assessment report, the environmental social impact, they are actually available. If you go on the PAU website, you go on the Total website, you go on the CIMO website, you go on UNOC and MBMD. These reports are all available. You can look at them. 2, they have also gone through what we call third-party audits. And some of the audit, third-party audits reports are also available, the one that we take. 3, maybe 6 months ago, Barclays sent a team from UK, and they came and did an independent evaluation, and we requested them to publish their independent report. So again, when you go on the website, you can find the Barclays report, And actually, their finding is that the project is actually compliant with IFC standards and international standards. There are complaints which are normal just in the project of this magnitude, but there are mechanisms which we are seeing that can address them. I think you should, there is one of you that jumped into that wagon, and we are not very happy. I should say, if he's here or her, I think we are not very happy. And hopefully, if the person who jumped, let me finish. Hopefully the person who jumped, when it comes to sharing, because there is what we call the hour of need. This is the hour of need. I should say it. I don't want you to defend. I have similar explanations. When the hour of need comes, he gave very ambiguous statements. When the hour of need came, he jumped out of us. When the hour of opportunity comes, please don't pass your business cards around. If possible, please chase that person out of your pool. Because this is the hour of need. We are sitting up, someone is cutting. Then one of us is also joining those people with very funny, ambiguous. I will not be shy on that. We are aware of that person at the hour of need. What I need to assure you is we are going to move. Why? As I've indicated, the project financing is almost 90%. Because if you want 15 billions and you have 13, you're looking for 2. The noise zone is on the 2. And even that 2, the financing are there. Why? Because we are dealing in a global world. There are markets in China, where, and so on. We are going to move. But at least here, among you, one of you betrayed us. I should report Mr. Kadunabi has gone, but one of you betrayed us and is trying to give ambiguous statements and all that, but we can know because we also sit the other side. They are not. Mr. Kamma, don't say anything. Just know one of you betrayed us. And also you, I did, because the Uganda said, you know how, if someone doesn't like you also, when you are serving food, now you know the So there is a person here who betrayed us. You can say about your headquarter or what, but this is a national project. We expected you to stand firm or keep quiet. The worst thing we want is at least keep quiet. But to find a Ugandan saying that, you know, okay, I will stop here. In terms of the sector position them on ESG, I think I agree. ESG is a good debate. It's a live debate. The obligations, everyone, you can go to America, they have approved licensing in the Arctic. You can go there right now in the Arctic. They have approved. They are in the Gulf of Mexico, North Sea now. There are 50 licenses that UK has put up. I think you've seen the other day, their environment minister resigned or something, but they have put up. They are deep in the North Sea. There's nothing we cannot do. If someone can get gas or oil from the North Sea, why can't we do it using the same measure? So what is my point is that all you need is to arm yourself with the information. Why? Because the players we have here are the same players in the North Sea, in the Arctic, in the Gulf of Mexico, in the Siberian Peninsula, in the Arabic, Sea and all. They can address the environmental aspects from any project. All you need is actually to look through. When someone comes, you should be able to say, okay, the issue you're raising has been raised. For you as an industry also, to be alive to what are the requirements. Because even me, I would be happy that as IRA, you have asked your industry to up themselves, and they are all aware of that. If there are issues, there are always issues. When you're dealing with social aspects, you can't have everyone happy. You're dealing with 10,000 people. There will always be a complaint. Or for us as government, there will always be a complaint. The issue is, what are the standards? Have we met them? Can you also arm yourselves and know what are these requirements? How has the industry looked at them? Where we have not, identify them and come and say, I think you have not met this. Can you also try and make sure we do? But the bottom line is that we must move. If someone is saying don't move, I think that one is an enemy. But the one who says let's move, but we have not addressed this, and therefore as an industry you should be able to go through the papers and say we are moving, but maybe address the following area. That discussion is very open. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Governor, please, your member, tell them we are seeing.
One is that we as an insurance sector should arm ourselves with the ESG knowledge, given the challenges we are facing in that area. Two, for the environmental impact assessment reports, those ones are readily available if anyone would like to look at them. Then coming to the confidential agreements and things like that, IRA is still here to continuously engage with the insurers and work on all those areas. Definitely, we know the impact government has at its say, so we have to align ourselves eventually. Then on the area of the labor database, we've gotten to know there is a Women in Energy Association, which is a good thing. We've all been invited to register on that database. As you can see, maybe the American company, what they need is an insurance officer locally. We can also put ourselves on that database and show our presence. Then I like the idea of the workshop, especially for the second tier subcontractors. And as IRA, we've noted that. And I guess we shall see how we can make this happen, as well as have that sub-audit. We'll see how we can come and talk to you, so you also help us have a successful audit in that area and push for insurance as well. And also, members, you've all been encouraged to visit the oil wells. The foreigners are flying in and can tell us everything which is there. And for us, we are rotating around Serena. So you've all been invited. As long as you notify in time, anyone can go, right? As long as you notify in time, you're all welcome. You had the progress. Some are already spudding, so anytime we shall see oil coming out. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an informative session. Allow me to wish you a good day, and thank you for having spared the time.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you, everyone. I think we've had quite a wonderful day. We overshot our program, but it was worth it. We are not the same as we entered. So allow me call Mrs. Francesca Paposa to give the closing remarks.
And I'll be very fast not to overshoot. Although we haven't overshot our program, we have 8 minutes to go to the end of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope it has been a very illuminating experience for each of you. Thank you so much for giving us your morning. One of our key strategic objectives in the new strategy is increasing stakeholder confidence. And stakeholder engagement is a key strategic action for us at IRA. So this is not the first we've done. We've had many other stakeholder engagement activities, but for regulations, this is going to be the norm. When we issue out regulations, we'll call you to actually speak about these regulations so that as you go into compliance, you're actually aware of what is required of you. We have heard from many speakers this morning. Al-Haj told us to seize the opportunity, and Ali gave us an overview of the sector and the opportunities that are there. And he also gave us insights into those that are fighting the decision to actually drill. And he also spoke to us about the different challenges and issues that you're going to see in the industry. So I hope that you have been ably informed about the oil and gas insurance business, I took you through the regulations that we have. We are currently working on an ESG regulatory framework. It is going to come out in the near future. So it is something that is going to be very helpful as well in supporting your activities with the oil and gas industry. So thank you so much for giving us your morning. I hope that we can continue to have these engagements, and please do heed our calls when we call you for such engagements. I would like to wish you a blessed day on behalf of Al-Hajj and IRA, and to continue to encourage you to seize the opportunities. Thank you so much, and be blessed. And I declare the stakeholder engagement activity closed.
Capacity sobola kunyonyola naye nga bwe bagambye already $15 million millions za $15 mu business bazikoze dda omukago guno gwazikoze dda era nsuubira nti basobolera ddala oku underwritinga sente ezisingawo kwekyo zino ze kati naye basobola okwongeraku kwezo obusobozi bwo bwe buli. Thank you so much.